Alright, people, alright, apologies. Right, let's get this show on the road. Put this here. Obviously, you guys can't see it. Right, just wait for some people to tune in whilst I share this. See some people tuning in. Ahlan wa sahlan bikum. Ustad Yasin. Alright. Just get this out there. Just going to share this from... Alaikum salam, Khalitai, Ahmed Khan, Imran Munir. Alright, Sim, is that you doing it, people? Sim from the Mad Mamluks right there in the house. I'm just going to share this to my other page and then be right, if I can find it, that is. Oh, bloody hell. Look at that. Oh my God. It's one of the most shocking things is to hear yourselves. Kay, ahlan wa sahlan. Mu'adh, people, is in the house all the way from Cairo with Momo right there. Alright. I'm just going to share this. Alright, is there some angry faces already? Mufti, what's up with the chain? I don't know what's up with it. What's up with it? Oh, you mean it's super slick? Alright. If you ask me some crazy questions, wacko questions, you're gonna get crazy responses. So, Momo, Humais, Kay, Ahlan wa sahlan bil qawm, Ndurre Najaf, Alaykum assalam. Right, so I think those of you tuning in, people, if you like and click share the feed, let's get it out there, let other people benefit also. And let's get this show on the road. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. It's been an interesting... I'm trying to just... get to the questions. I'm not trying to play myself on here just to... God, where's my questions gone? They're... Yes, salam. Oh, here they are. Alright, I've got them open. Did I almost just swear? So would have this been another scandal? Omar, alaykum assalam. People just joining in. Imam Zubair has just joined in. Ahlan wa sahlan bikum. Right, if you click like, click share, get this live feed out there. Look at that. It is the best way to practice your tajweed. To either have a cold, ice cold drink, or like a hot, soothing tea, then go, practice the ha. Right, so inna alhamdulillahi wa kafah. That all praise be to Allah, and it suffices, that suffices. Wa afdalu salati wa salam ala rasulih al-Mustafa. And the best of blessings and salutations upon the chosen, selected messenger. وَعَلَى عِبَادِهِ الَّذِينَ ارْتَضَى. And upon those servants with whom Allah is pleased. وَمَنْ بِهُدَاهُمْ اِعْتَدَى. And those who have followed in their guidance. وَبِآثَارِ أَهْلِ الْمَدِينَةِ اقْتَفَى. And those who follow in the tradition of the people of Medina. Wassalamu Allahi ala al-qawm wa ahlan wa sahlan bikum. Okay. Wa bienvenidos a todos. Wa swagatam. Wa huan ying lai tse. So, people, what have we got going on? Hola, hola. Alright, ¿cómo te va, Samani? Please give some gym advice. I swear I'd been traveling for the past few days, so I've got back, and so I'm a bit out of it. I'm actually having withdrawal symptoms. I haven't been to the gym for about, must be now a week. So god damn, I'm actually like, oh my god, you know, you have this kind of, oh my god, everything's gone to waste, and psychological kind of sufferings. What are your thoughts on the Catalonia? Oh, the Catalonia versus Spain issue. Omar, interesting. I think that's actually, to begin with, a very political thing right there. I think it's a very crafty, like, I like the House of Cards move that the Catalonian people did by just declaring that, wow, we just did a referendum. I thought to I watched that and I thought, I like it. This is proper House of Cards move going on right there. And then the president, or is it the president or the prime minister's like, there has been no referendum. It's too late, mate. So I think, right, people, ahlan wa sahlan, Tahira, Sabah, Abdullah, ahlan wa sahlan bil qawm. People, if you've just tuned in, I'd like you to like and share this feed, get it out there. So what are some questions that are bothering us, people? What's going on? What's social media up to? Catalonia, yeah, I mean, I think they're pretty much on their way to independence now. I think that move they did, that was smooth. I give it to them. Right, so, right, let's take a look at some questions, people. If you've got any questions, feel free to put them into the comments here, and I'll try to go back, forth in between them. I need a new watch, man. Well, alright, well, there's Armani right here, people. Armani. Right, so, what are my views on Taweez? Right, Hamza, Mudathir in the house, ahlan wa sahlan. Right, Rabia Barakatullah, ahlan wa sahlan. كيف نزكي نفوسنا في هذا العصر يا سيدي ياسين يا له من سؤال قيم. Right, Shaban is in the house, people. Shaban, right there, look at that. So somebody saying gangster, yaar kahe ko badnaam karte ho yaar, gangster mufti क्या किए हैं हम? Right, so let's get back to the question. Taweez, or in Arabic what they call ta'widha, or ta'aweez plural, or tamima, and the plural is tama'im. Why can't women do li'an if the husband cheats? Let me get to that question. That's an interesting one. Humayra Madani. Okay. What are my views on Imam Ahmad Raza Khan Brelvi Sahib? Acha, I'll get to that. Let's take this ta'weez one first. I do not personally support this kind of whole ta'weez mindset. I see this as part of a culture of superstition, and I would actually advise people to stay well away from things like that, from ta'weez and amulets and talismans and good luck and bad luck and oh my god, I've got a curse, and oh my god, I've walked under a ladder, or a mirror's broken, or horoscopes, or I see none of these things. I don't personally see them different from a phenomenological perspective. I understand that some people have religiously tried to justify ta'weez. I get that. I don't declare it shirk, but I declare it as superstition. Okay. So this kind of stuff is not how the Prophet taught people. He didn't go around saying, oh, you're having a bad day? Here, everybody wear an amulet. We're going to get some super good luck. Or you want to, oh, is so-and-so ill? Oh, just, I know, forget about science. Just wrap a string around his neck and everything will get better. Of course it won't, right? People, and what is interesting is people who do these things, they normally are not deluded when it comes to when it comes to when it comes to the laws of nature in everyday matters. So these people wouldn't, I've mentioned this time and time again, they wouldn't like, you know, I don't know, drive into a wall, because they understand the laws of nature, of like physics and of crashing, and they understand cause and effect. They wouldn't do things like put a phone, I gave an example of saying you wouldn't hang your phone at the tip of a desk like that, because you understand gravity works. You understand these kind of things. Now, you wouldn't risk these. It's not that they believe laws of nature don't exist, but they seem to make an exception on this one thing. So they say laws of nature all exist. There's cause and effect. There's diseases. There's, you know, there's antibodies that kind of counter these things. There's blood cells, and all these things work, and there's hereditary illness. They accept all of this, but they'll make a tiny exception, say, oh, but in this case, wearing this thread round my neck will make the cancer go away. You know, that obviously it won't. But they'll kind of suspend their perception of reality for that one moment. Right, so that's so as far as I'm concerned, I would advise people to stay well away from superstition of all kinds. I would say, somebody's asked, have I met Shaykh Hamza Yusuf? I haven't. I would love to meet Shaykh Hamza Yusuf. He's one of my icons. We were in the same place once, and I did try to go to meet him, but I was slightly delayed, and my friend did meet him and had a good chat with him. But I do wish to, inshallah, meet with Shaykh Hamza Yusuf, if he'll take the time out, right? So inshallah, we'll see. Right, when that time comes, or according to some people, when I force people to have tea with them and then take photographs, I'm like, have this tea. Selfie time, Shaykh. Right, so, you know, there was this whole thing a little while back. People were saying Mufti Abu Layth forces scholars to have tea with him just so he can take photographs and put it on social media, and he forces them. Shaykh, you are coming to have tea. What's that? Anyway, so let's move on to another question. Right, so that's my thing about Taweez. Listen, people, Islam came to eradicate. It came to eradicate superstition. Do not fall back into it. Okay, do not fall back into it. Hamza Yusuf, the path Muslims are going, shaking my head. I don't know. I don't know what that means, Mary Sahib, whatever that means. Can you copyright that? Perhaps. The laugh sounds evil, and evil it is, Myra. Evil it is. Jyoti Katanidis. If yes, can you recommend something on this topic? I'm not sure what the topic is, Jyoti. So, right, now, next question. Somebody had asked a question. If men cheat, can women do li'an? Right, li'an is an ancient practice of invoking curses upon each other. I don't think in this day and age we would do li'an like that. Al-Asil, Ahlan wa Sahlan, Shaykh Suleiman Van Al. People, Shaykh Suleiman Van Al is in the house. Those of you who are not familiar with Shaykh Suleiman, right, you definitely need to. He's a legend, moved to the UK, he's graced the UK with his presence. You need to check him out on social media, reach out to him, an incredible voice of reason in our age. Right now, so do Christians and Jews go? Right, so coming back to this question, so li'an is an ancient practice where one of the couple, for example, so usually it was done if the husband suspected that the wife had been cheating, or the son wasn't, the child. In the incident, it was to do with the son in the hadith, but if the child, let's say the pregnancy wasn't his, if he claimed that, so what would happen is he would go, The hairline is a transplant. If I had that hairline, I would be reading 3 kulls. Transplant. No, it's not. Although I have considered that maybe you know, when you see with age as it starts to thin out a bit, you think it's time to get that transplant. But right, so coming back to this question, so if a person denies the child, the pregnancy, and then they, in the ancient practice, they would invoke the curse. He would swear that the child isn't his, and he would say that, you know, he is telling the truth, and may the curse of God be upon him if he is wrong. And if he's lying, sorry. Not if he's wrong, if he's lying. And the woman would do the same. She would, according, and this is in the Quran, it is mentioned, this practice, that she would say the same thing, that, you know, I swear by Allah, and, you know, may the curse of Allah be upon me. If he is telling the truth, as in, if he is correct in the fact that I've been sleeping with somebody else, and they do that on 4 occasions, and then they just part ways, and they are never ever halal for each other again. They can never remarry according to the Sharia of Islam. Now, Shaykh Khabbab Ahmad, ahlan wa sahlan, Shaykh G, tasharraft. Right, so I think this practice today is not right, is not what is, it isn't relevant in our day and age to do things like this, in my understanding. What you would do is different practices, like, I mean, as to verifying the child, you could take DNA routes and things like this. If the marriage has fallen apart, then you can simply separate. Okay, you can seek a talaq. If somebody wanted to do li'an, they could. I'm not saying that you can't, but I don't see the purpose. When the original purpose came, it was to do with the husband, in the incident in the time of the Prophet, where the husband is saying he saw the wife having, he claimed that in one of the incidents about him saying that she was having sex with somebody else. Now, technically that would now cause him to either be punished for bringing an allegation upon her, or it would cause her to be punished if he could bring the proof. So this was the problem. Then this li'an was almost as a method, in my understanding, to avert all of these punishments. So that's the reason the li'an was introduced. It was in line with ancient practices of invoking curses, but also as a mercy. So, okay, right, things have really messed up here, but you guys are never going to get back together. But I tell you what, rather than somebody being punished in this situation now, here's a method to avoid that, to circumvent the classical or the ancient kind of punishments. Now, but today to do this would be irrelevant, because there is no punishment. Okay. Now, Imam Hassan, ahlan wa sahlan, tasharraft people. Imam Hassan of Gloucestershire is in the house. Right, so that's why I think this kind of, and I'm not into this, you know, this practice of saying, let's invoke the curse. If I'm wrong, then you know, there was this guy in you know, some of these zealous, mashallah upon the Salaf, the way of the Salaf. This brother in a chip shop once, many years ago, and he asked for some food, and he was ordering some chicken or something, and the person, apparently, I don't know, the order was wrong. So the person said, no, you ordered this. He said, no, I ordered this chicken. And so what's happened is, right, so what's happened is that he's saying, no, I've ordered this chicken, and the person's saying, no, you haven't, and the chip shop guy, they're having this quarrel. So all of a sudden he says, I ordered this, may the curse of Allah be on me if I am wrong. And if I'm right, may the curse of Allah be on you. I thought, what are we in the, like, what is it? What is the year? Is it like 1342? I thought, what is wrong with these people? Like, seriously, may the curse of Allah be upon me if I didn't order that chicken, and may the curse of Allah be upon you if you did. And my friend goes, may the curse of Allah be on the chicken. But people, right? I mean, look. My point is that sometimes some people get so immersed in this kind of this world that they kind of weave together. They weave this world together. It's not, like, and they export themselves into this medieval time, and they think they're living there. Like, may the curse and the curse be on you, and the curse be... Just chill out, people. There ain't these curses flying around the way you think they are. Welcome to 2017. Chicken is a serious matter, I get that, but I'm just saying. So this is my whole point of saying that, look, these things today are irrelevant. They don't share relevance, these curses and things like this. They sound very kind of medieval. Now, the problem with this is if you start speaking in that language, right, you become irrelevant to the people around you. Because Allah says in the Quran, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِن رَسُولٍ إِلَّا بِلِسَانِ قَوْمِهِ, that we did not send a messenger except with the language and its usage of his people. Right? So this is so now if a messenger was to come and speak in a way that was irrelevant to the people around them, it would compromise the message. So if Muslims today all start acting like we live in the medieval times and start speaking like, sometimes you get, it is sometimes interesting though to watch. I was watching this other brother once, he's making this deal with, like, his trading, doing something. Anyway, so he said, no, I said this, let's be upon clarity. I just loved it. He was like, this was with a regular person, by the way. He goes, let's be upon clarity. Let's have the language that sometimes Muslims start to, when they become practicing, is really interesting. But let's get back to some of these questions. Was Imam Malik considered a Mufti? Of course, Imam Malik was a Mufti. He was the Don Mufti of Medina, to the extent that there was a proverb, it became proverbial, that La yufti ahad, let nobody issue fatwa wa Malik fil Medina, whilst Malik resides in Medina. Allah, the dons of the school of Medina. That's Imam Malik is an absolute legend of this ummah, to the extent, let me tell you something about Imam Malik. Yeah, during the Hajj once, Imam Malik, whilst he was sitting in I believe it may have been the Mina kind of region, he was sitting and people were just sitting, everybody sitting. So Imam Malik, it's reported that he had his kind of, his clothing just trapped under him. And so he stands up to kind of just fix it. So he gets up. As he rose, everybody rose. And Imam Malik's just like, what the... okay. So he sits back down and they all sit down. And he's trying to figure out what happened to them. But they followed Imam, thinking that they followed him in matters of religion to the letter, that they thought that may have been a religious act, that at this point you're meant to stand up. So they all stood up. So this is, that's the status of the Don of Medina, Malik ibn Anas. Right, so yeah, that's Imam Malik. A Mufti is somebody who can issue a ruling within Islam. So they themselves can issue rulings within Islam. Right, okay, let's get some of your questions. What is your opinion on women leading salah with men and women? Hamza Sharif. Alright, you natty. you're trying to get a masjid going with women imams, female imams. All the guys will be there, even the people who don't pray. That's one way to get everybody to the front row. You just have to, like, they start advertising for these model imamas, these female model imams, and everybody's in the masjid. So, well, you see, the thing is, as far as I think, it's not that I am in line with the general understanding that women generally do not lead prayer. My understanding is it's not because they're incapable or mentally deficient. That's not why. That's not, it's not that they lack or anything like this, but it's just because of human nature. I think if we're going to be honest, men are men. Let's not beat around the bush. Yeah, so, men, it's our evolutionary nature to be, men will always be attracted to women, unless, of course, they're attracted to men, which, hello. Well, oh my. So, but I mean, otherwise there will always be, and obviously if a woman is, and then people will say, oh my God, but that's disgusting. Why are men's thoughts being all perverted? But they just are. So there's no, it's all male species. It's not just men. It's all male species are like that. So, sorry people, but so this is why I think Islam was just being practical. That guys, look, this is worship. Just chill out and let there be a male imam. Because obviously, if men are standing there and women are just like, they're just standing there and the women are just bending over and doing this and doing that, it's going to lead to just nonsensical kind of like humor and chit chat and banter and all sorts. So this is why I think Islam was just pragmatic. So I kind of stand with that position. Yeah, so that's that. But women amongst themselves can lead women. There's no harm, just as men can lead men. And I personally think that it's not that women don't have a capacity. I think women, Islamically speaking, do have the capacity to lead men. As the hadith of Waraqah in Abu Dawood shows that she led her servant in salah. And that was the understanding of Abu Thawr, of Muzani, Sahib al-Shafi'i. It was the opinion of several people that came through the Islamic legacy. So many scholars have gone with that. It's not a very new position. Okay, so just to clarify, so I believe they have the mental, obviously, so anybody trying to say they don't have mental capacity is pathetic. They do have the full capacity from an Islamic perspective. The only reason I think Islam didn't do that is because it's worship and it knew male nature all too well. God knows what men are all about, so it doesn't matter. God's like, come on, the Sharia's like, come on, behave. Don't try the religious one with us. We know what you're really about. Right, so that's Mufti, are Deobandis Muslim? And are they part of Ahlus Sunnah? Of course Deobandis are Muslims. What an absurd question. Look, people, everybody, Ahlus Sunnah, this thing of Ahlus Sunnah, we have to understand is something that scholars came up with to kind of group Orthodox Islam. And it was done for many reasons. I'm sure it's got noble reasons too, but undeniably they have it was to do with control as well, controlling people. So, but I'm sure it had pious reasons to it as well. I can't deny that. But this word, for example, Ahlus Sunnah, for at least almost 200 years after the Prophet, we're seeing a word like this emerge. It doesn't exist. In early Islam, nobody used the word, we are Ahlus Sunnah. They didn't even have a name for the majority of the Muslims. So they were just normal Muslims. Like in Imam Malik's time, the Mudawwana, his book on fiqh, has over 30,000 issues of masail in there. Why did he never ever speak about what Muslims ought to believe? Why did he never do that? Because belief was just very natural back then. Then it started to get institutionalized, and I can see what, there's some pious reasons to institutionalizing things, but usually it leads to problems. Let's just make it clear. We do not have the right to chuck people out of Islam. Okay, to excommunicate. We can explain a ruling. I can say that, look, this is a ruling, this constitutes, disbelief. Like if somebody doesn't believe in God, or, doesn't whatever, you can say that this, but really we don't have the right. I don't have the right to say, you bloody kafir, you bloody this. I don't have that right. God hasn't, I can give a fatwa personally as a mufti, but most people are not even muftis, just to clarify, okay? Let's get that straight. So, but this, the point is, I could give a ruling about a general thing. Like I could say, if somebody said this would constitute kufr, disbelief. But it's not for me to pass judgment upon an individual. Okay, just to clarify that. So, it's important to know. And this Deobandi, Brelvi kind of thing is nonsensical. It is so outdated. It's like so 19th and early 20th century. They need to get with the times. Honestly, the world has moved on. And I tell you, the problems... Look, regardless of whether somebody asks me, what do I think of, Raza Ahmed Raza Khan Brelvi, and what do I think of the Deobandis and stuff like this? Look, they were all people who did great things in their own right. But none of them were perfect, just as we ain't perfect. And they may have been, great people compared to us. But the point is, they were not perfect, as is nobody. We should just look at the great stuff they did and celebrate that. As to like, did they do this wrong? Did they do that wrong? Did they blah, 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 blah? It's irrelevant. They have long gone. Allah says, وَلَا تُسْأَلُوا عَمَّا كَانُوا يَفْعَلُونَ. You won't be asked about what they did. Why are you so caught up about it? So this is... you said Hudud can change nowadays, so if we fix the hadd of zina and the hadd of qadhf, and I do li'an today, what is the procedure? Yusuf Abdul Rahman. Interesting. Es muy interesante, Yusuf. Alright. ¿Qué estás diciendo? I'm going to come to that. Okay. Now, so this whole point of just clarifying that this Dio Brilvi thing is out of date. It has no place in the modern world. Okay, in this modern context, in the developed world, it definitely has no place. So in the West, if you're clinging on to it, that's your choice. It's your life. You can do whatever you want. Do whatever the hell you want. But I can reassure you, mark my words, people, with it, your faith will also die a death. And your coming generations, their iman will tremble. Seriously, it will tremble and collapse to its core right in front of your very eyes. Because you are not offering a solution for their problems. You're throwing them into historical problems which are irrelevant. Right, so let's I'm learning Spanish. Yep, Sidi, of course, I'm studying Espanol. Espanol is an amazing, beautiful language, I have to say. Right, can you touch upon the cursing of Imam Ali radiallahu an and where this originated from? I have a whole video dedicated to that. I'm not going to really go into that. But so you can check my video on it. I don't really, people have asked what do you about the Shia, and somebody just asked me a moment ago, what are my thoughts? Look, I just want to stress that I think as Muslims, the challenges that are facing us are facing all of us. Sunni, Shia, you know, Deobandi, Brelvi, Salafi, Sufi, I don't know, nothing. Because you see, my problem is I don't belong to anything. I mean, I believe to be from the orthodoxy Ahlus Sunnah of Islam, but I don't belong to any particular group. So, but whatever you are as a Muslim, the problems will face you all. So, there is a long video where I've done that, and I've explained in detail that look, I disagree with a lot of these things. That said, I do feel that we need to move forward as a unified as a front. At least mitigate our differences, keep our differences to a minimum. Okay, let me reword that. Mitigate our animosity. Right, maybe we won't be able to mitigate our differences, but at least we can contain the animosity that we have amongst ourselves, unfortunately, and move forward as a massive. As one. I think that's something we could do. We can hold back the kind of as far as the actual Shia Sunni narrative is concerned, I really think all this is political. I've answered this before. I don't personally, I don't agree with either decision. I don't agree with the decision of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anh to go to war. I don't agree with the decision of Muawiyah. I agree with those companions who were conscientious objectors to war. I feel war always brings tragedy. And I don't generally agree with the Shia theology at all generally. And I'm categorically opposed to their some of the, not all of them, but many of them that are that promote abuse. Verbal abuse to venerated figures within Islam. So I'm categorically opposed to that, and neither do I accept that, and I don't accept the abuse of esteemed companions like Muawiyah. Imam Malik said anybody who curses Muawiyah in his time, Imam Malik had them punished. Right, so that's how, and I fall in line with that. Obviously, I, like all Muslims, love and venerate and Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anh, and all people, but I don't have a, like, I don't have this kind of Catholic thing or this kind of towards the holy bloodline. I feel all Muslims are equal. I don't find that, you know, if you said to me, for example, you feel that you're from the family of the Prophet, I would say, well, good for you. Good for you. That's what I would say. It would mean nothing to me if you claim to be a Sayyid. It literally mean nothing to me, apart from maybe just me saying, okay, there's nothing beyond that. Because to me, we are all human beings. Nobody is closer to God through some holy bloodline. I don't believe in holy bloodlines. We are all the children of Adam. So in that sense, we're all the children of prophets. You know, so we are the children of prophets. So it doesn't, or of a prophet, Adam. So it doesn't make you any more special than me. Okay, so in you saying to me that, oh, I'm from, well, well, I'm from Adam. So, I mean, how about that? How about that? Cash you outside. How about that? So, and I do feel, I don't think this is everybody, but I feel a lot of people only do this to have a status. That they want recognition to say, I'm from the family of the Prophet, on a recognition status. And many Muslims do give them that recognition. To me, you know, you wouldn't get that from me. So if you came, if you came trying to show off your bloodline to me, it wouldn't mean anything. So that's how I see, and that's how I see the Quran. Allah says in the Quran, إِذَا نُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ, that when the final day comes, فَلَا أَنْسَابَ بَيْنَهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ, that their bloodlines mean nothing. And that's the word of God. That's the word I take. Allah. The Messenger of Allah was the best of creation, but with all due respect, he didn't just come for Quraysh. He came for the whole of mankind. And if you think you have some monopoly over him because you claim to be from Quraysh, then you, my friend, are deluded. Okay? Because Allah says he was rahmatan lil alameen, not li Quraysh or li Bani Hashim or li, Fulan or li Fulan or, li Mudar or li these kind of people, these Arab tribes. He was for the whole world. Okay? So that's my view on this whole thing anyway. So moving that aside, let's move on. Somebody's saying you should drink with your right hand. Well, I should, shouldn't I, Mateen? But I'm not going to. It's a reversed camera, you you super intelligent genius. Speaking of geniuses, you might be able to qualify for a a special learning difficulty allowance if you put the if you put the claim in right. Okay, let's see how any of the questions. What are we looking at? Is it permissible for a Hanafi to sometimes go according to Imam Abu Hanifah's rules on the start time of Asr and sometimes go according to the ruling of Imam Abu Yusuf on the start time of Asr for convenience purposes? G. Abdul has asked the question. Right, so madrasas have been... See, I'm just asking because you tweeted one of them. I'm not sure. Right, so... Right, the question here is that if somebody is a Hanafi, can he follow Imam Abu Hanifah's point at one time and then Imam Abu Yusuf's? The answer is, of course you can. Somebody is trying to say we should revere the family of the Prophet above all of the Muslims. Mate, you can do whatever you want. I give you the words of God and the words of the Prophet, and you try to give me a holy bloodline. Look, I'm not saying you should disrespect anyone. Don't disrespect anybody, but treat them all equal. No favoritism, no nepotism, no racism, no tribalism. Okay. I don't care what tribe you're from. This ain't 9th century Middle East, my friend. We're living in 2017. Get with the flow. That's what it is. So, right now, yes, of course, these opinions that we have within fiqh are there for ease. Okay? They are there for ease. So just to remember that if you do follow a particular opinion, but sometimes you need it to take an opinion for ease, you can do that. That's absolutely fine. Especially within madhabs. I mean, there's no problem at all. This following a madhab, look, you have to understand something. Following a madhab is simply permissible. And from a learning perspective, it's common sense. So if you want to learn Islam, the only way you could successfully do it is by going through a particular school of law. It's like saying, if I often give the analogy of an alien coming to Earth and wanting to understand law. To understand law, the alien would have to begin by studying the law of a particular region first. It couldn't study all laws simultaneously. You couldn't do that. I mean, I don't know how the alien's cognitive abilities work, but generally you couldn't do that. You would have to learn from one and then move along and compare and so on. So I'm all for following madhabs and learning through madhabs, and I'm very passionate about the school of Medina, the Maliki madhab, and I do feel it is the solution, part of the solution. Zubair ibn Nazir, जनाब हम आप तक इंशाल्लाह पहुंचते हैं. कुछ जरा सब्र और हौसला रखिए. कुछ हौसला रखिए प्रभु. हम आपकी तरफ भी आते हैं इंशाल्लाह. So the thing is, you have to study from one or the other. But this controlling people to be stuck within madhabs, this is part of the institutionalization process. This is why I say to people, look, you have to view things through discourse analysis. You have to, when we are reading books, we have to get into the mindset of everything, of what's going on when these books were written. Most of these people who wrote books, a lot of them were people like judges. When you're a judge, you are attempting to maintain power. They are written from power perspectives and power structures. You can't, like, if I'm a judge, Qadi Fulan, and I'm ruling over you, you can't, I don't want to hear you say, oh, but I don't, according to Imam so-and-so, this is a different ruling. I follow him. I don't want to hear that. Because I have to operate. The system has to operate to protect people's rights. So, in order to do that, people push these narratives. Oh, you must abide by a particular school of law. Once you're in a school of law, you are stuck. You cannot move around. You cannot do... These are power structures to keep some kind of order and systems operational. This is not something that Allah ordained for humanity, or the Messenger of Allah came with as part of his majestic message. This is not that. Okay. Mufti, what madrasa did I go to? Listen, I've got a detailed bio on my about thing on my Facebook page, so if you can read it there, inshallah. Are there any physical benefits in zamzam water? Not feeling the benefit. Shafqat, it depends what you mean by that. We are told that this is a blessed water. We are told that that in a hadith that ma'u zamzam lima shuribala, that the water of zamzam is for whatever intent it is drunk for. Now, how does that have an impact? I do believe it has an impact, but how? Is it because there is, for example, certain things to it, properties? I don't know. It could be, or maybe there ain't properties. Is it because a ritual impact has, according to a lot of research done by some of the medical department at Harvard, they've shown that rituals, once being undertaken, take a similar pathway in the brain as to when the brain is receiving medical assistance on matters. So I mentioned this in my, if you watch my video on debunking myths, I'm not sure if the second one is out yet on magic, but I speak in there about the placebo effect and the nocebo effect, where you get positive harms and negative harms. And I speak about some of the research conducted with over 200 participants via Harvard, the medical faculty, on where they take into consideration people who are suffering from certain issues, and they give them acupuncture versus pills, but all are placebo. So none are actually correct. So, I mean, none are actually, even the acupuncture doesn't actually pierce the skin, they're retractable needles. But what happens is they see significant differences and improvements in the people, and actual physical harms, psychosomatic harms. So the interesting thing is to see, right, so the interesting thing is, there you go, look at that, it's so easy to block people. Right, so the interesting thing is that here, some of the results that they found were that rituals seem to cause actual neurological impact and activate the same pathways in the patient's brains that would be activated when receiving actual medical assistance. So it's interesting how Islam had set certain... So I'm not saying this is how it does it, but this is one way of looking at it, that Allah has set certain things into motion knowing how they impact human beings. Whether we interpret that in whatever way doesn't make a difference. So that's just to answer that question. Please discuss Talfiq as a whole is not valid according to any of the madhabs. Talfiq, of course Talfiq is valid. Talfiq simply means picking between different madhabs or scholars or taking different positions. I've just answered that a few minutes ago. Following a madhab to start off with is not an obligation. So how can it be an obligation to stick with one? When following a madhab in itself is not an obligation, why is sticking to it an obligation? Okay. And yes, Junaid saying Zamzam is blessed. I totally agree. And right, let's... Right, so keep the questions, inshallah, relevant. Right, that's not for the Zamzam question, that's for some other comments. Right now, that I do believe it's absolutely blessed, and I know a lot of people, I've read about scholars in the past who drank Jalaluddin as-Suyuti, drank Zamzam, saying I drank it with the intention to have the memory of Ibn Hajj al-Asqalani. And he says I had it with the intention to become the Imam in this mosque, and he says all of those things materialized in that sense, and it's amazing. And I do agree with that Zamzam is blessed. How do we explain that? Once again, I've offered some explanations, and I'm open to other people's explanations and research too. Right, so what are the blessings of al-Wat? I don't know. Is seeking help through our beloved Prophet classed as shirk? No, it's not classed as shirk, although I have answered that generally it's not the way I mean, generally, Allah in the Quran says, Ud'uni astajib lakum, call me, I will answer, okay? So that's what I would say, that we do as Allah asks us to do. I've answered this in much more detail in a previous show, you can check that there. The Arab culture and Sunnah, Abdul Wadud. Okay, I'm just coming back to one question. I'll come to this. Those of you just tuning in, if you'd like, and if you can click share, if you can share the live feed, inshallah, get it out there, let other people benefit, and post your questions below, I'll come to them. Click the share button, people. Click it, share. Click the share. Right, so, okay, now, Rash is in the house, people. Our own body transformation technician is in the house right there. A few people have actually asked me about wanting to go to the gym, wanting gym techniques. I ain't your guy. That's your guy right there, Rash, who's just tuned in there, inshallah. Reach out to him, send him a personal message. He's a highly skilled personal trainer, and somebody I personally know and can vouch for as solid. Right, okay, so look, this question, somebody had asked a question saying, you believe that hudud should change with the day and age. Therefore, let's say the hudud is £1,000 for zina, and this is this, and this is this. Look, I would say, look, relax yourself, right? What are these hypotheticals? What are these hypotheticals? Because when I'm saying that the ethics should reflect, the Sharia wants to reflect the ethics of the age, I feel that is important, because otherwise the message of Islam becomes compromised, you see. So I've said this before on so many occasions, and I know somebody tried to have a brief discussion on Facebook about it yesterday in some of the comments, that the greatest challenges to Islam in the 21st century are from reason, ethics, science, and relevance. That these things are what really is the greatest challenged since human history. Islam and religions as a whole have never been challenged the way they have today. So now, let's take ethics as an example, people's understanding of right and wrong. If you bring an ethics that predates their ethics, not that is more advanced, that is underdeveloped to the human ethics of the time, it will compromise your message. The message of Islam will become compromised. Right? So you couldn't so if somebody came today, you see, today people are working towards eliminating more and more harm. You can't hit people, you can't do this, you can't. If you come back to, no, let's hit people, that message will not succeed. It can't succeed because you are clashing with a more developed ethics. You have to remember, when this came, Islam, these rulings were only condoning, they were only offering solutions to problems of their time, and these solutions already existed, so people were already doing things like this, and Islam kind of curtailed them and placed parameters. So that's the thing. So did the Prophet stone people? I don't think the Prophet himself ever stoned anybody, but I think but the companions did. This was a practice from pre-Islam. It was a Jewish practice, which I believe that the Prophet condoned based on the basis that they initially came to the Prophet, as is the hadith in Sahih Muslim. After that, it was there until, in my understanding, the verses of the Quran came, and then in time it was abrogated. So whether you feel that it was abrogated through the verses of the Quran, or whether it was abrogated through trajectory hermeneutics, in my understanding it was abrogated. Okay. So exactly. So you couldn't, if you started to say, let's crucify people, hang them on a cross, your message can never succeed. You have to understand that. Now, you can live in a bubble and pretend that it would, but it won't. So that's to kind of clarify. When I say ethics needs to be, Islam wants to reflect the ethics of its age. Now, that said, Lian, if somebody wants to do Lian, they can do Lian. Lian is just saying when a person wants to decry, they want to absolve responsibility of the child being theirs. This is what Li'an is about. Today, you would use DNA evidence. Okay, so you would check through DNA if the child is yours. If he is yours, you are responsible. If he's not yours, fine. You are not the biological parent. You are not responsible. We have a solution. You see, you couldn't have had a DNA solution 1300 years ago. So that's why they had a solution to meet the challenge of the age. Today, saying, oh, this child is not mine, may the curse of God be on me if it is, and the DNA report says, no mate, it is yours. Today you can't respond right back to the CSA, Child Support Agency, and say, if the child is mine, may the curse of God be on me. Please don't ask me for any financial contributions. No, mate. I'm afraid you still have to contribute. It's your child, mate. So this kind of stuff, exactly. It's a bit irrelevant. You see, don't make Islam irrelevant. Please. Haath jod ke, I'm asking you, don't make Islam irrelevant. Don't make it a laughing stock. People, we don't do ourselves any favors towards Islam. We make it so irrelevant. Right now, right, okay. Mufti, does everybody get a fair chance to go to Jannah? I believe yes, so. They do. I believe the hadith of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he said, nobody goes to Jannah with their own actions. Nobody. He said they only enter paradise through the grace of God. So whoever Allah wants to grace, He can grace. In this world we have certain rules as Muslims. These rules were also, they were made more as rules really on how to differentiate who's a Muslim, who's a non-Muslim, how to have certain kind of interactions, certain things. Even some of those rulings have become a bit irrelevant over time because the world today operates differently. But that said, they are simply worldly rulings. They are not for the akhirah. Right? So although we can say in the world, these people are not Muslims, these people are Muslims, these people, but what we can't say is these people are going to heaven, these people are going to hell. We can't do that. We only have a remit, a parameter, which only allows us to discuss from a worldly perspective of who may be apparently in our system a Muslim or not. As to Allah saying anybody who doesn't do this and he doesn't do that will go to the hellfire, then that is true. Allah has said these things, but the ulama of the past have discussed that when Allah makes threats in the Quran, it is not necessary that he has to see those threats through. Whereas when he makes a promise, he will see the promise through. So what they say is that, you see, if a person, and they give an analogy, that if a person forgoes a threat, it is seen as incredibly a positive kind of action. It is received and welcomed by people. And as opposed to if somebody forgoes a reward. If somebody says, oh, I'm going to give you this reward, and then says, oh, well, don't worry about it. It's received negatively. So the ulama have discussed these things, that although Allah has said this, but if Allah wants, everybody can go to heaven. He can. It's not impossible for Allah. So what Allah does is it's not our business to be discussing that. So we just leave it there. What are your views on Shaykh Yasir al-Hanafi? Come on, people. I think Shaykh Yasir al-Hanafi is a respectable Hanafi scholar who is... stop trying to drop me in it, please, with all these personal... And I do have a somewhat of a, I would feel, a personal relationship with him. I would feel that I could possibly, I would feel from my side, call him a friend. Even though we may disagree massively on actual issues of fiqh. But I do feel that, I have spoken to him personally, I've met him. Just as other people, I would feel if I had an issue with him or other people, I could, if I wanted to, pick up the phone and call him and he would respond. And that's the relationship all Muslims should, especially people within the clergy or the kind of imams should aspire to. Okay, next question. Which madhab, in your opinion, is the most suitable? The Don madhab of them all. The school of Medina, people. Okay, let me rephrase that for you. Somebody came to Imam Malik. And he said to Imam Malik, I want to learn Islam. Could you do a talk on Salawat Durood Sharif? I'll come to that question, Naseby Spears. That's an interesting name, Naseby Spears. Right, so somebody came to Imam Malik and he said, I want to learn about Islam. Imam Malik said, then take up residence in Medina. Allah. He said, for the Quran was not revealed at the riverbed of the Euphrates. That this, he said, it was here in Medina that the Quran was revealed. It was here that the angel Jibreel descended. And it was here that the Messenger of Allah lived and passed away. So he said, if you want to learn, then learn from the people of Medina. So that is the tradition which I myself adhere to. And so I'm not dissing the other traditions, but it is why I feel it's the most, it's the best for the West. Look at that. Best for the West. There's some people out there, they catch these kind of stills of me doing stuff like this. And they go, oh, the devil sign. Devil sign. So I do this to kind of further to give them more fuel. Right, so the thing is now, why I feel that the Maliki Madhhab or the school of Medina is best for the 21st century, especially Muslims in the developed world, is because one, it deeply rests in authenticity, in sunnah, in things like this. That's like, if it's got like these two legs, if you like, one foot is firmly entrenched in authenticity, in sunnah, in this unbroken tradition of the school of Medina. The other leg or the other foot is firmly entrenched in this belief of maslahah, welfare and maqasid, objectives of the Sharia, that the Sharia should always meet its objectives. The objectives must change. The Sharia will change if the objectives change. Okay. Right, so next question, let's move on. Alright, Ahmed, don't worry, read my bio, yep. Ya al-Haram police need to chill. Talam Najema Kabir. The camera is reversed. Right, okay, anybody going on about me drinking with my left hand is gonna get blocked. Right, so next question, people. Okay, if the Deen was based upon intellect, then the bottom of the sock would be more deserving. Yeah, first of all, the bottom of the sock is wiped according to the Maliki Madhhab, so that argument doesn't even fit. Secondly, I would say that was talking about rituals. Rituals are incomprehensible because they are rituals. Right, so is that Coke? Yep, it is. Oh, what is it? I could tell, but then. Right, what's the next question? Salam, any advice? Always feeling stressed. Muhammad Rizwan, Ta'weel Mukhtalaf al-Hadith. I haven't read Ta'weel Mukhtalaf al-Hadith, but I have heard of it, Rahim. I will check it out. But I've heard of certain things about this hadith. We should have gone, what? Sam Crow Cup. Alright, do you want to address what's... Right, so let me just discuss this point first of all. Right, now, I don't think Abu Hurayrah radiallahu anh was fabricating hadith. I think that's a very strong allegation. I do think certain hadith definitely got mixed up along the way. Definitely. You will see like many scholars like As-Subki in his Jamal Jawami and other scholars will, even Suyuti will write that the majority of the scholars felt it okay to narrate hadith based on meaning. That you could just, like, rather than the actual words, I could just narrate the meaning. The problem with this is, what if, you see, when you listening to something is constructing a meaning. Now you could be conveying with all sincerity a meaning that the Prophet did not intend. So this is why the Prophet said in a hadith, نَضَّرَ اللَّهُ إِمْرَأً سَمِعَ مَقَالَتِي. May Allah, glorify, may Allah kind of bless a person who heard my words. فَوَعَاهَا فَحَفِظَهَا. He understood them, then memorized them. فَعَدَّاهَا كَمَا حَفِظَهَا. Then he transmitted them as he heard them. Right? So I think that's why because it's important. I don't think Abu Hurairah doesn't embrace Islam suddenly, all of a sudden. He embraces Islam about 3 years and lives with the Prophet about 3 years. He comes from a tribe known as Daws, and his name is Abdul Rahman ibn Sakhar. Now he comes and he embraces Islam most likely in Hijri, and then he stays with the Prophet because he doesn't have a job and things like this. He's always following the Prophet around, sallallahu alaihi wasallam wa radiyallahu anhum jami'an, and he's memorizing several things. So I'm not, to be fair, Abu Hurayrah and was told off, as was some of the Sahaba were told off by Umar ibn al-Khattab for transmitting so many things because they felt that they are making mistakes, or they may be susceptible to making mistakes because they're transmitting en masse so much. And I think several of the things did get mixed up along the way. So it did happen. And I think what also happened, not necessarily from them, maybe from them too, but what did happen is people who are transmitting from them mixed up a lot as well. Right, so that's important to understand. So sometimes some of the tabi'een would sit in a gathering and they would hear a lot from, let's say, one sahabi, then they would hear something else from somebody else, then they would hear somebody say, oh, I think I heard. But when they are transmitting to people who come after them, what happens is they may have said like something they heard from somebody else, also grouped that with what they heard from Abu Hurairah, for example. So this is why you get several hadith in sometimes Bukhari or Muslim which are problematic. And many scholars find them problematic, especially from people like Ka'b ibn Ahbar. He is somebody who may have been more interesting as a personality or as a character if you did, because he doesn't embrace Islam during the lifetime of the Prophet and then embraces it, I think, in Umar's time. And he goes on to transmit a lot as well. So that's interesting, and his transmissions are sometimes quite weird. Right, so people, if you any questions about what I've studied, please look at my Facebook bio. I have also given an intro on my video where I respond to the age of Aisha in the beginning because I'm asked to introduce my studies, so I go through studies. You can watch that. Can a Sunni girl marry a Shia man? I believe they can. It's not that they can't marry. I think these things are just more common sense. So you have to understand if it's going to be an issue, fine. If it's not, then okay, it is. If it isn't, then fine. That's what I think. Right, so that's people. Those of you just tuning in, if you'd like, and click share. If you share the live feed, inshallah, get it out there. Let other people, inshallah, benefit. Maximize the khair, inshallah, that you, as part of your investment in spreading knowledge, and post your questions below. Let me get to them, inshallah. What's a Wahhabi? I've answered this before. A Wahhabi is somebody who was inspired by Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab about 250 years ago or so, his movement, and he basically rebelled and had a certain, and it's a whole but kind of movement inspired by him, which is based mainly on a harsh interpretation of Islam, which rests on Puritanism. Okay, so that's what it is. Their harsh attitude, it's slightly softened up over the age. So it began as outright extremists, absolute violent extremists. So they would kill Muslims and everybody that they would excommunicate and consider non-Muslims. But over the ages, it softened out its approach to simply excommunicating, or then even just considering other people to be heretics. But they are very influential, despite being a minority amongst the Muslims. Probably I would think that they, on the ground, are not as many, a small minority, but they highly influence online information about Islam. Right, so but I do consider them still to be part of the orthodoxy of Muslims. So if you want to call orthodoxy of Muslims, whatever that means in its very loose understanding, they would be a part of that still, in my understanding. Your thoughts on al-salam? I'm not sure what al-salam is. Al-salam. Maha is asking, what are my thoughts on that? I don't know what that is. Lawrence Krauss, please, photons came from nothing. Yes, I mean, photons are emitted almost ex nihilo almost. So it kind of destroys this this concept. Lawrence Krauss, well, okay, those of you that haven't watched my, heard my podcast with the Mad Mamluks. Mad Mamluks have a podcast, so I was on one of their shows. And if you haven't heard it, you can check it out. Watch it, let me know your feedback. Adam Aslam, I will come to you on suicide, okay? I have answered that in much detail before, by the way. Faisal Malik is in the house, people. Ahlan wa sahlan. Our paparazzi's right there, people. Professional photographer. If you need him, reach out to him. Right now, right, so the thing is that, look, I was asked in this podcast with the Mad Mamluks, who do an awesome job. I love their general podcast. Sometimes they can be very controversial, and I like that. That, you know, they kind of interview people of all sorts. They call them Mad Mamluks. Now, on there, I was on their show, and they asked me, one of the questions, they asked me about the debate between Dr. or Professor Lawrence Krauss and Hamza. I can't seem to pronounce it, but I think it's Georgis or Tsortsis. Now, I said in that, although I think, you know, Hamza is an incredible, charming kind of person, unquestionably, I have met him very briefly, just once, but I think he's definitely awesome like that. But I didn't like that discussion too much, to be honest, with that debate. Too much, and I wasn't too impressed with the kind of responses, because I felt that if you were going to take on a powerhouse like I would think, you either don't take these powerhouses on, or if you do, you have to do a good job. Like there are some powerhouses of atheism, and you can't just take them on and not do a good job, or just don't take them on. So I found it actually very disappointing, that debate, and because it was done in a Muslim audience, the Muslims were just cheering anyway. I mean, they're going to cheer anyway. Most of the Muslims don't even understand these discussions that are going on, and so, you know, they were just cheering at anything. And I felt that Hamza went on so long trying to say that the miracle of the Quran was that it was in Arabic, and I think that's a redundant argument, because it doesn't make any sense. Because if the miracle of the Quran is about it being in Arabic, then why is Islam for the whole world and not only for Arabs? Because most of the world doesn't speak Arabic. So most of the Muslims don't speak Arabic. In fact, if you're going to say Muslims are 1.5 billion, let's say, Muslims on earth, Arabs are only 300 million or so. That's like a tiny fraction of the Muslim community. So most the Muslims in the world don't actually understand Arabic. So if this was the whole point, so I was disappointed with that angle. And then there was a point where Dr. Krauss or Professor Krauss actually asks him that, do you understand Arabic yourself? Like, you're going on about all of this. And I think that was actually quite embarrassing, because he said, well, he doesn't. He's just learning Arabic. But that wasn't my main point. Was, this thing where he says, well, you're resorting to old philosophy to prove God. Like, oh, nothing can come out of nothing, something can't come out of nothing, and so on. And Dr. Krauss Professor Krauss says, well, what about a photon? What do photons come out of? Oh, you gotta love these people. Honestly, I love these kind of, the challenges that these atheists bring and these scientists. I love it. I find it so thrilling and exciting. It's like, it's human tenacity, and I like it. I gotta say. I don't find it threatening in the slightest, by the way. I don't, honestly. And I find it disappointing that Muslims just get scared because they're so insecure. But you see, it's true. So the whole point is, it's true. You got to back off with your Aristotelian arguments. You know, these arguments that you're using were developed like 2,300 years ago by Aristotle and by people who were amazing. I mean, I respect Aristotle. I think he's a great person, but I mean, great kind of, you know, legend of thought that we have. But the point is, Aristotle had no idea of the quantum world. Like, okay, he may have discussed the atom, but subatomic, he didn't get to that until just in the last few decades we're discovering subatomic particles in the way that we're understanding them now. So when you see, when you try to use outdated things it makes all Muslims, because if it falls back, all Muslims get embarrassed. So that was my point. I don't see that as a problem, that where do photons come from, where do stuff like this. They're obviously emitted, and fair enough, they do come almost like they come into existence almost out of nothing. But I don't see this. Obviously, you could argue that it's part of, you know, the electromagnetic kind of waves and things like this. Obviously, these things are present to allow photons to be in existence, or whatever, however you want to argue. But my point is that, look, we don't need to prove God exists. You don't need to prove God exists. You will never prove God exists. The debate was simply, I forgot what they call it, but if you type in Krauss, Lawrence Krauss versus Hamza Tzortzis, it'll come up. But we don't need to prove that God exists. And that is not the problem. People need to understand that Islam today, religion today, is not being attacked based on God. God is not the problem. The problem, Ustad Mu'azzam Berg, Ahlan wa sahlan, tasharrafna. Ustad Berg is in the house, people. All right. So the problem today about religion, or the challenges, is not God. People have to understand this. God is not the problem. So even people like, if you watch the interview of Dawkins, or even in his book, he will explain. He will say that, look, if you had a scale of 1 to 7, and 7 being certain that God does not exist, I would place myself at number 6. You know, that's Richard Dawkins himself, his own words, saying, I wouldn't say that I'm 100% sure there is no God. He says, I would be overwhelmingly inclined to believing there is no God. God is not the problem. The problem is the leap from a God, a potential God who made this magnificent cosmos, to one who is so obsessed, apparently, about women plucking eyebrows, or about women not being able to go more than 48 miles, or about this leap is the problem. Not God in his majestic sense is not the problem. The problem is this petty version of God that is projected. That if God did create all this magnificent cosmos from the infinite, to take it right down to the intricacies of the infinitesimal world of the quantum, right? You take a look at that. If God is this amazing, this being, this transcendent being that did all of this, then why is he obsessed about saying women can't go outside the house? Why is he obsessed with saying things like stone people to death? Why is he obsessed about it? This is the problem. The problem isn't God as a whole. So I don't think we need to keep trying to prove God exists. We need to deal with these challenges. This is why I said that, look, the greatest challenges come from science, yes, because why from science? Because science is providing more answers than religion can today around nature. Because first religion would provide these answers and now science is doing it. So that's why it's a threat. Otherwise, science is not inherently a threat to Islam. Okay, I feel that Islam is... Right, I feel that Islam is totally in line with science. Okay. Now, so that's the first understanding. Secondly, and I think this is a big one, reason. People want to reason with you. And if you fail to reason, the whole message will collapse. When Islam came, it came with reason. Look at the whole Quran. This is why today, this is one of the reasons why I love people like Ustad Noman Ali Khan, who I passionately did support and do support. Because these few people, once again, put the emphasis on the Quran. Today, nobody wants to, the Quran isn't important anymore. So if you look at the Quran is constantly calling people to reason. أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. Do you not use your intellect? إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ عِبْرَةً. There is an ibrah in that. لِأُولِي الْأَبْصَارِ. For people of insight. لِأُولِي النُّهَى. Of people of great intellectual capacity. It will say things like, you know, did they not see? Don't they look at the camel? إِلَى الْإِبْلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. How the camel has been made. إِلَى السَّمَاءِ كَيْفَ رُفِعَتْ. Look at the intricacies of how the atmosphere, the heavens have been created. Look at this is the Quran's language. The Quran isn't just saying, hey, believe in me, it's tough luck. If you don't, it's believe in me or you're going to get it. It doesn't come from an intimidating perspective like that. Yes, sometimes it has mentioned stuff, but the Quran generally, if you're going to balance out its entire message, it's saying, Man sha'a falyu'min, man sha'a falyakfur. You want to believe, believe. If you want to disbelieve, disbelieve. So, this is the message of the Quran. So today, people want to reason. This is really important. The third and the biggest thing is ethics. Ethics has become a huge problem. It's become a massive hurdle in the way of Islam. Because people are trying to promote an ethics which appear underdeveloped. So people are saying, oh, it's like, you see, when Islam came, Islam was there tackling, like saying, oh, stop this brutality, stop this brutality. No, so-and-so has rights, so-and-so has rights, women have rights, children have rights, elderly have rights, servants, slaves have rights, employees have rights, this person has rights. No, you can't do this. No, you can't maim people. No, you can't disfigure people. No, you can't do this. No, you can't do zulm. No, you can't do... It was, oh, you can't transgress. You can't... It was seen as the ethics were ahead of its age. Today, what's happening is we're presenting ethics which seem underdeveloped. You're saying to people, oh, he's caught... You know what? You should stone this person to death. It's like, what the hell is wrong with you? They're like, you know, people are saying, oh, Muslims, oh, Islam gave rights to women 1400 years ago. Really? Then why is Saudi Arabia in 2017 saying they can drive? Like, look, actions speak louder than words. Muslim countries today are pathetic on human rights. They're devastated. They're a disaster on human rights. If Islam came with human rights 1400 years ago, then what the hell happened? Because there's no point going on about we brought human rights, we gave women rights of this, we gave this. And there's still, this is a huge victory that women can drive now. They can drive in 2017. And don't get me wrong, of course I get that it's a victory for Saudi people. But it's like they're bloody cave people. It's like Neanderthals would have been ahead of them. If Neanderthals still didn't go extinct, we would have had Neanderthals driving around in cars. And the Saudis are still Saudis are still trying to preserve the ovaries. Saudis are like the the ovaries of the of these women get damaged when they sit, when they drive. And I read this tweet by a scholar, a Saudi scholar, say, Alhamdulillah. He said, the land of Tawheed, the land of the oneness of Allah, has reigned supreme. This was 2 years ago, because they tried this campaign 2 years ago and it failed. He said, has succeeded once again in disallowing women to drive, and the conspiracies of the Shia and the Jews have failed. I thought, oh my God, you're having a laugh. Seriously. I thought you couldn't make this stuff up if you tried. Right, so the thing is, look, let's get this clear. Right, look. Annoying laughter. Well, I'm sorry about that, Rizwan. Right, so the thing is that, look, we have to understand something, that actions speak louder than words. Okay. And so there's no point saying Islam brings superior ethics. It doesn't. Most Muslims, and even Muslims in the West today, like sometimes have some absurd views. Absurd views. So this is why I say that the ethics must. And the last and the most important thing is relevance. I keep saying this, people. Religion needs to be relevant to people. Right, okay, so next question. Suicide opinions, please. Adam Aslam. Right. Look, suicide is haram in Islam. And I would say, I'm not sure if you are having any thoughts about this or you are struggling in life. Then, look, do not give up hope. Reach out to professionals, speak to them. There are people who are trained, who are experts, technicians at how to handle certain situations. Know that there are people out there that can kind of support you, that can help you, okay? Now, in religion, within Islam, suicide is haram, and it hasn't even given an ounce of leeway. It hasn't given, because this was one of those topics that religion had to be so harsh on it in order to ensure that people just don't give up. That said, I would personally welcome a discussion on things like euthanasia. In euthanasia, I know euthanasia as it's practiced in some ways, like you've got voluntary, involuntary, passive and active. So you've got the one which is okay in the UK, for example. Right, so you've got the one which... So in the UK, a doctor can switch off. I mean, people can switch off, as in, I think the US too, and in other parts you can switch off the... no, I know it's in the US and within Europe and parts like that. You can switch off the life support machine as long as two doctors, certified doctors have said, you know, this person has no hope or so on, or is brain dead almost. And that's kind of like, that's in that sense, by the person who you're killing, it's involuntary. They're not saying kill me. And it's passive. You're not actively killing them. You're kind of just switching something on, off, and their whole system will shut down on its own. Then you have voluntary active euthanasia, where people will, so for example, some places in Europe and I think some states in America, where people will go and, like Dignitas, the clinic, and they will ask to be euthanized, and because of some terminal illness they've got. Now, I would personally welcome the debate and discussion on this from an Islamic viewpoint, as in, I would feel that maybe from the message of Islam, that maybe, in my understanding, the mercy of Islam, that maybe there may be scope to kind of to cater for maybe people like that. Okay, I would love for ulama to embark on that, but I can't see them ever doing it. Not in the immediate present anyway. They're too busy, too busy doing other petty things. Some of them. I don't mean to diss our clergy in general. They're amazing people, but some of them. Now, I do get the debate, and I'm disappointed in places like the UK that as a secular state, that it hasn't allowed euthanasia and hasn't legalized it. I do feel that countries like the UK should. I feel that people have a right, and that they shouldn't be imposing. I don't feel the state should ever impose morality on a people. That is not the state's job. I do get the debate that people are saying that you could be forced into doing that then, and I get that. So safeguarding measures should be in place, but still, I think people should have a right. Now, that's from a secular perspective, and speaking from not religious perspective. From a religious perspective, I understand that religion had to take the stance it took. It was necessary to ensure the longevity and the survival of the human species. Now, right, so that's what I would say. So as far as somebody who asked the question, the person who asked the question here about their friend having committed suicide, he was a Hafiz of the Quran and depressed. Look, I do not believe that by committing suicide you are damned and going to hell, right? I don't like eternal damnation, like the guy stuck. Allah is merciful, okay? Allah understands you better than you. Right, so I don't think, inshallah, the person that did this, my thoughts and du'as are with their family. I think it's more suffering for the people that they perhaps leave behind. This is for people. I'm not supportive of, I'm not supportive at all of general suicide, but euthanasia for the terminally ill and things like that, I would welcome a discussion on. Generally, depression, I do think that you can, firmly believe that you can come out of depression. I firmly believe that you can be brought out of it. People, you need a supportive network of friends around you. You need people that can try to pull you out. You need to preoccupy your mind. You need to, a lot of these things are mental things, and the mind can work wonders. It can be destructive, but it can be highly productive. So look, if you're feeling very down, right? If you're feeling very down, I would encourage you to reach out to people you can. I know it's going to sound very like, people say to me, Mufti, it's not like that, but try to do things that will cheer you up. Be around people that will make you laugh. Try to laugh. I know it may be hard, but try to do it. Right? Try to do something physical, because it impacts your psychological state of mind. It produces certain kind of transmitters are more released in the brain. Certain kind of therapeutic measures are taken by the brain whilst a person is working out. Do things that are relaxing. Try to think of different strategies. Sometimes people might be financially in debt, for example. Think of strategies. There are networks out there. Yes, there's endorphins released, but sometimes dopamine, other kind of active neurotransmitters as well. Now, the point is that, look, reach out. There are systems in place. So somebody might be struggling, for example, massively under debt. But you could do something like in this part of the world, there's bankruptcy, there's other measures, that there's plenty of safety nets to help people. Sometimes it's just a lack of knowledge of them. Okay, watch stand-up comedy. Honestly, if it's not, sometimes people are depressed, but there's no reason to be depressed. They need to really shake themselves out of it. They need to really watch some comedy and do something, right? So that's the go to sleep, you'll miss Fajr. Well, Maha, blessed are the naive. You have no idea how vampires live. Right, oh man, what's your view on him? I've answered this before. All right, look, let's take a few rapid questions. How do you shake yourself? Right, so let me take a look at some of these questions, and I'll try to rapid round some of these. I was asked a question, by the way, about things like, somebody had asked about relationships. Now, I get asked this a lot of the times. You see, in my understanding, people, Islam did not, those of you, by the way, those of you just tuning in, feel free to like, inshallah, the like the show, god damn it. Click share the live feed, get it out there, let others benefit, and post your questions below. Right, so now people were discussing things like relationships, yeah, and I've been asked this a lot. Look, I want to explain something, that we have narratives, we have a story, okay, of what we think Islam is telling us. It doesn't mean Islam is necessarily always telling us that. Okay, so you have to understand this, and I know it might be a bitter pill for people sometimes, but it's true. In my understanding, Islam doesn't tell us much about relationships at all. It just gives us some parameters about being responsible, and then it just lets people be. So it doesn't say you should have a relationship like this, or you should have a relationship like that, or you should, once you're in... So for example, let me give you an example. Now, having lifelong relationships, awesome, nothing wrong with them, all good, I'm sure. But Islam never said you should have a lifelong relationship. This is just like, I'm just putting this out there as a shock, that you'd be like, whoa, what are you talking about? In fact, it never said that. Never ever. It doesn't say you shouldn't have it, but it doesn't say you should have it. This, believe it or not, is actually a Christian concept. In fact, 900 years ago, Qadi Abu Bakr ibn Arabi, the Maliki legend from Muslim Spain, in his tafsir of the Quran, writes under the verse to do with talaq. He says that, if we were to say, he actually speaks of an incident where he says, people say, if you divorce your wife and marry somebody else, that's like, like they look down on it socially, look down as in criticize him socially. I don't think, he doesn't say it's him personally, although it could have been, but he's speaking about this. Now, he says that, look, nowhere in Islam does it say till death do us part. And he says, لو قلنا حتى الموت لكان نكاحا نصرانيا. He says, if we said till death, it would have become a Christian nikah. But we don't have this. Now, why am I saying this is because, you see, now straight away as Muslims, many Muslims have an understanding that this is an Islamic concept. It's not an Islamic concept. Islam just doesn't say anything about it. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but I'm not saying you should do it. Right, Ahmed, I need you to chill with those questions. It's borderline trolling now. So, right, so the thing is, right, so now, getting this point, Ashraf, أحبك في الله وإياك إن شاء الله حياك الله وأحبك الذي أحببتني من أجله. Right, so the thing is now, look, just to clarify, why I'm saying this, because I get asked a lot of questions on relationships. Oh, so-and-so saying this, should I give this another go? Shouldn't I give this a go? Should I get married about here? Should I get divorced? Is it haram to get divorced? This is a fabricated hadith, by the way, that Allah dislikes divorce. This is a fabricated hadith. It is not a hadith of the Prophet. The Prophet himself divorced several of his wives, just to clarify. And the companions constantly, I mean, different companions divorced their wives. So Islam just didn't, it just had a kind of like a hands-off approach. Like, you know what to do with your life. If you want it, if it works out, alhamdulillah. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I'm not saying people should go this way or that way. I'm saying you are responsible for your own life. But these stories and narratives we bring with us in saying that it's like we think Islam wants us to have, so we think Islam wants us to have relationships in this way. Islam has never said that. So I'm just clarifying that. So I was asked as well, somebody told me that with all these other propaganda going on against certain scholars, that somebody had mentioned something against Mufti Menk also, apparently, about him having multiple wives or something, and you know, what's the sketch on this, and why do people... Look, the thing is, these things, whether they're true or not true, first of all, they're nobody's business. But secondly, we have to remember where we are getting influenced by. We are simply carrying a story. That's all we're carrying in our mind. Our story is not the same. Like, we think Muslims have always thought like us. They haven't. And even today, many don't. So that's why I gave this example of a monogamous marriage till death do us part. Is simply a Western, this is a very recent modern world phenomenon post World War II. Especially, you know, this ideal kind of the American dream kind of model. So I'm just giving this example out there. The same thing with, look, I always say, I make things like that. Look, we should always go in line with stuff like with science. We should learn from social science, and we learn from our own fitrah. Social sciences teach us today very clearly that male species in general are always of a particular nature. Now, you can try to superimpose a modern structure on them, but it's not going to generally work, is it? So that's my understanding. So as far as these examples of people saying, oh, so-and-so has multiple relationships, in my understanding, look, it's their thing. And secondly, this is only creature nature. Male species are almost always polygamous by nature. So it doesn't really... Now, I get the fact that that doesn't fit in so well in modern day societies. And how will that work? I don't know. But that is evolutionary nature of all generally male species. So making these things into the kind of deal that we do, we can do, but it's not Islam. It's our perspective. That's all I want to ask. Ahmed, chill out with the questions, man. Let's get some of these questions right. Where are we? I'll take some rapid round questions. Let me see if you've got any here. My phone seems to have frozen. So it's not invited. No idea what you're talking about. Context about the hadith about not hitting the head. Khalid Hussein, the hadith about not hitting the head, it depends what you mean by that. What is the purpose of this question? I mean, if you mean, can you partake in sports? Then the answer is yes, you can. If you mean, can you partake in sports like boxing? Does this clash with the hadith? No, it doesn't. Okay, so just to clarify, you can do things like boxing and stuff like that. Why is he telling something which is not right at all? Well, Sayyida Kubra Fatima Naqvi ji. What we'll do is we'll tune into your live show and you can tell us. Mufti, how long does it take to be an alim? What is a Maulana? Usual varies anything between 6 to 8 years is the standard thing. Is whistling haram? Of course not. Of course not. Don't be absurd. Right, so let's take some rapid round questions, people. My phone seems to have... So I'm just going to be taking them from here. So if you've got any questions, feel free to quickly post them. What's going on? What's going? No hijab? Your opinion? No hijab. You see, hijab is an interesting one, but I've answered this in much detail before. You see, I always emphasize things like discourse analysis, evaluating things from greater contexts. Okay. Just invite me and I will tell you, no need to laugh so cheeky. ठीक है सैयदा कुबरा फातिमा जी. Ahlan wa sahlan bik. You can come and inshallah give your responses. Can a man have more than 4 wives in one go? Is 4 a true limit? There is a difference of opinion. Some scholars felt there was no limit. Most people felt 4 just because it was reasonable. Some scholars like Imam Shawkani and other people argue that there was no limit as long as a person could, in their context, it could work for them. Right, so I'm trying to open these questions up. My phone's been playing up. Is it permissible to claim benefits that we are not meant to be entitled to as we get paid cash in hand? Generally, Loban, no, it's not permissible. And this was one of my points that I made, that look, how is it that people were attacking certain scholars and trying to be haram police? And I said, do you not do haram yourself? Like, how many people in your family would be doing haram? How many people would you know that are claiming benefits that aren't really entitled to them? Is that not haram? You know, do we only remember haram? And look, I'm not saying many people don't do this. Many people may. I'm not saying everybody does this, but many people may do this. But my point is, why do we become the haram police all of a sudden against certain people? The nepotism of Uthman radiallahu an, I've highlighted that in greater detail, Junior, in some previous Q&A. Wouldn't have the time right now. It's a very detailed discussion. The ayah of Mithaq, covenant taken with Allah when we're taken out of the loins of Adam, is this proof of in the hereafter against someone who was never sent as a messenger? No, I don't think so. That when Allah says that Alastu bi rabbikum qalu bala an taqulu yawm al-qiyamah inna kunna an hadha ghafilin. Allah. That Allah says that, you know, on the day of judgment, should you say, lest you say that we forgot. What's that poem? रोज कहता हूँ भूल जाऊंगा तुम्हें. रोज ये बात ही भूल जाता हूँ. This is the thing of I don't think that's a covenant against people. I think, look, we should understand that Allah is merciful. What He constantly reminds us everywhere is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. He could have said Ar-Rahman al-Karim. Could have said Ar-Rahman al-Aziz. He could have said Ar-Rahman. But repeated two hyperbolic kind of forms, exaggerative forms of exaggeration, which are different and both emphasize mercy and compassion. So, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. So this is why we should understand that it's not, Allah's not trying to trip people up. He's not trying to throw them into hell and stuff like this. So, focus on the positives. Focus on the positives, people. لا تشد الرحال إلا إلى ثلاثة. Yes, I mean this, you can travel to any mosque, that's fine, but the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was trying to advise that you don't need to seek pilgrimage, almost pilgrimage-like attempts, except to these 3. Okay. So people, why on earth are you chatting about biryani on my... Is the dream world more real than our waking state? Interesting question, Zain. Interesting question. I don't know if you've seen the article in The Independent yesterday. It was online about the world having a what they call a holography, like a holographic, what they're calling it, reality. That is the world actually a hologram. It's interesting, actually. The whole... I mean, I'm not saying it is. I'm saying it's interesting. The article was interesting anyway. Where does Islam stand between historically absolute and modern relativist approaches in science and philosophy? Islam always stands as it has, that science and philosophy, historically they used to call science philosophy. So it wasn't, this was just a part of philosophy, basically understanding the world around you. That's all it meant. Now, Islam has always been one that encouraged curiosity. Would income from a shisha cafe be classed as haram? I don't believe it would be haram in general, although I understand it's not seen as necessarily a dignified kind of income. Who is classed as a male's mahram? Some say the mami is mahram, some say they're not. Can you mention all mahrams for a male and female? Look, it's simple. Mahram is a person that you cannot marry. Okay, now, so that is a mahram. Okay, so people that you're not allowed to Islamically marry would be your mahram. Okay, so obviously siblings, obviously parents, children, grandparents, grandchildren, uncles, aunts. That's as far as it goes generally. And then other people who enter that kind of part of that mahram. You see, these are the kind of core mahram, and then you get people who enter the mahram thing through things like marriage. So once you marry your mother-in-law, your father-in-law, your, I don't know, how would you say, like your stepchild becomes a mahram, stuff like this. Okay. The womb, yeah, I know it's related to the word womb, but then it's taken on a kind of a theological meaning as well, a new meaning. Right, never thought about that, Muhammad. You should do Q&A on Islam channel. Thanks. I don't think Islam channel would. I mean, if they invite me, sure, absolutely. Nieces, nephews, yes, they are mahram. But Mufti, can you elaborate on Prophet and Zaynab's marriage and marriage between adopted sibling? I've answered this previously in much depth, that the Prophet did marry Zaynab. There was this taboo in the past, and the Prophet, it's a verse in the Quran that he was told to marry, but he married after Zayd had divorced her. Okay, so can I eat my baby's placenta? Not whilst it's inside your baby, I take it. Right, so let's move on. Right, people, instead of blocking haters, can you mute them? Yeah, I'll block them. There's no problem. I have no qualms in blocking people. I'll block people for a joke. If anybody thinks that, you know, if they troll me, I'll block them. I usually mock and block them. Right, so, okay. Do women have any way out of divorce if the husband won't grant her a divorce? Yes, of course. They can approach an Islamic council. The Islamic council should and must authorize a woman's divorce if she no longer wants to be in that relationship. That is her Islamic, God-given and fundamental human right. Okay. Can we eat lobsters and crabs? Yes, we can. Definitely, according to the school of Medina, you can eat all creatures of the sea, all creatures of the air, and almost all creatures on land, with the exception, the only thing haram according to the school of Medina, according to the popular understanding, is simply pig and animals which were sacrificed to other gods, or dead animals, as in they were already dead before. Obviously they're going to be dead once you're eating them, but otherwise all animals are almost halal according to the school of Medina, which includes things like tigers, lions, wolves, kangaroos, elephants. Not that we've eaten them. I did actually eat a crocodile burger. Alright. I really wanted to taste. I used to think, I wonder what a crocodile burger tastes like. And then I got to eat it. And it actually tastes okay, to be fair. It tastes quite crunchy. Right, so... Right, so is excessive gym and eating 6 times a day disliked? No, it isn't. Go for it. Don't worry about it, people. Right, I think we're going to call it a wrap. Any final questions? Can women wear perfume outside the house? Yes, they can. Alyssa, in my understanding, women can wear perfume outside the house. I think the difference was, you see, when the Prophet said that, it was to create a kind of modest, to promote modesty in a in a kind of setting, a particular setting. Just slightly digressing, I know according to the Maliki Madhhab, as I said, all amphibians are halal. So land animals that live in the sea as well are absolutely halal. Right, so coming back to this now. Yeah, so wearing perfume outside the house, that's, in my understanding, that's fine. Women, it is, you know, the point was not overdoing something where something doesn't happen. You see, like I give an example, it is now normal for people to smell nice. It's pleasant, it's good. Speaking of smelling nice and perfumes, oh my God, Tom Ford Oud Wood. Oh, where has it been all my life? Honestly, I had to go buy a 100ml bottle just the other day. I'm in love with Oud Wood now. The middle and the bass notes, not the opening notes, but the middle and the bass notes. So anyway, but coming back to this, you see, we live in a culture where smelling nice is good. It's expected. You see, if you lived in an environment, let's just picture, like it's difficult unless you picture it. So let's say somewhere, like, I'm going to be drastic, I don't want people to take offense, but let's say you lived in some rural part of Afghanistan. Let's say, I'm trying to give you a picture of a rough kind of place. Now, where there is also lawlessness as well. And this kind of like, and if people don't generally walk around smelling so good, they don't generally do that. They might smell subtly, okay, somebody, but some woman all of a sudden showers herself in perfume. Can you imagine, like, it's for her safety that the Prophet was saying that? Because there wasn't this culture that was like widespread like that. So what he meant was dampen this down. Because it's your own safety. You have to remember, they were still warrior people. They weren't like, these were like, the closest examples I keep giving is like of Vikings and people like that. This is how they lived, remember. They were people who lived off just raiding people. And raiding and wars. And so you have to remember, safety is important. Now, in this day and age, wearing perfume is kind of almost expected. So, to smell nice, I mean, you don't need to drown yourself, but smelling nice is good. Similarly, as in women wearing makeup. It's permissible. They can wear makeup. And, you know, Shaykh Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Dadu has also given that fatwa, and I shared his fatwa on Facebook, and he's one of the Grand Muftis of Mauritania. And so wearing makeup, because it's kind of expected. So Muslim women shouldn't look weird. They shouldn't look odd out. They shouldn't look in a time where everything, and I'm not saying it's okay, but everything is about the superficial. Now, I get the fact that we shouldn't be about the superficial, we should be deep, but we can't neglect the fact that it is about the veneer. So, look, in a society where everything is about image, image is everything. Yes, I get the fact that we should be people of substance, but we can't ignore the fact that image is everything. So, in a society like this, you see, men, obviously, like I give an example, so sometimes we will get this problem that men will be just attracted to other women, not Muslim women, because the Muslim women, they've got them too busy being very, looking so like there's some, just, I don't know, like completely out of touch with the modern world. And I'm not saying Muslim women are like that, but I'm saying some Muslim women that they may have access to may be like that, very kind of plain Janes and very, so it's no longer attractive to them. Because when they look at all other women, they're like super attractive. So when they look at these women and then they think, well, they think like, so it causes a problem. So you're causing a disbalance. And Allah says, and we've created a balance in everything. So when so what you're doing inadvertently is you're kind of messing it up for Muslim women by doing this. So yes, I do believe that a woman, regardless of her wearing hijab, she can wear makeup. And that's what Shaykh Dadu has said that as well. It's available on YouTube where he answers that. And they can post pictures like that wearing makeup. And sometimes they need to even, I'm not saying they need to wear makeup, as in like if you don't wear makeup, oh my God. But what I'm saying is, if it's going to put you in a handicapped position in society, then you don't need to be in a handicapped position. And I mean by handicapped as in like a losing out position in society because of religion. You don't need to do that. Like, religion should never be the cause of your loss and suffering. It should never be like that. So that's the important thing. So I'm not saying you need to turn into, like whatever, but just keep it normal, because it does cause a disbalance. And it causes sometimes, then they will say, oh, men, people ain't interested in me, they're only interested in other people. And you think, well, why don't you also be like, I suppose, like, because you're kind of sheltering yourself so much from certain things. And I get the modest and I respect the admirable kind of modesty, it's admirable. But what I'm trying to say is if it's causing you a problem, it's not necessary in my understanding. And I've answered before, yes, women can shape eyebrows, they can pluck hair, they can do whatever they want. The Maliki ulama have said that previously. Shaykh Dardir, the Suqi in their fatwa have said it's not haram. That curse was only specific at the time the Prophet was saying it to certain women who were doing it to, there's two interpretations that they give. One, that they were imitating these certain prostitute women at the time when normal women weren't doing it. And the other interpretation is, no, this was only referring to women who were in their iddah, the mourning state of a widow. So, people, with that, I think we should call it a wrap. The generation wore henna on their hands. Of course, women wore henna on their hands. Yep, absolutely. And what's interesting is, you see, if you read when Imam Malik is asked about hijab and stuff like this, and he's asked like, oh, would you say henna, wearing henna on the hands, wearing bracelets, wearing anklets, wearing these kind of things is part of what should be kind of forbidden and stuff? And his response in the Mudawwana is no. He says that's just natural, normal stuff that women wear. He says that's not the kind of stuff that has to be covered. So it's interesting that where we get our perception of modesty from. Anyway, people, who wants to be known as exactly? Who wants to be Cyclops? So, people, right, with that, I think we got to call it a wrap. What I would say is, if you're new to this, inshallah, do like my public page. Like it, inshallah. Follow it. My private page as well, if you want. You can like and follow that as well. If you have any questions, reach out to me. You can message me. I will try to respond to you, inshallah, as soon as I can. I am also on Twitter and on Snapchat as Malm, MALM 2014. That's Malm 2014. You can add me. You can send me any questions. I do try to get back to people. Other than that, inshallah, that brings us to the end of today's session. So we'll conclude with the words that Subhanallah wa ta'ala amma yasifun, that praise and glorified and transcendent be Allah, who is above that which they define Him as. And وَأَفْضَلُ الصَّلَاةِ وَالسَّلَامِ عَلَى الْقَائِلِ الْمَمْنُونَ, and the best of blessings and salutations upon the blessed messenger who said, Al-Madinatu khayrul lahum law kanu ya'lamun. Medina is better for them if but only they knew. So with that, people, take very good care of yourselves. Remember me in a kind dua, and I'll see you all next week. Till then, inshallah, ma'as salama wa salamu alaikum.